the first kind of interesting part is the crash itself. As I'm going in, it was on my fourth run of the Olympics. And like when I was just talking about sled control and speed and everything, I was pushing it. And I knew the moment that I had pushed too far because, and it was so cold in Korea. So when the ice is cold and hard, we have less grip as well. So in one moment, I knew I had pushed too far, and just kind of due to the dimensions of the track there, I kind of went up in the air. And as I hit the top of the track, I realized you're like, okay, you're a victim of physics at this point. And what comes up comes down, but you're watching it from the outside perspective. It looks like it was a very fast crash. But from my perspective, my body slowed everything down. It's pretty crazy thinking back of experiencing that. My body, it was in complete slow motion for me. And I had enough time to think, okay, lift up my head. And lifting up my head is why it saved my brain, probably. Which was great. And that's why my neck took the brunt of it. Right. But the first thing is, like, your body is such an incredible kind of system. Yes, it is. And yes, so, yeah, that was the first thing. But then, and the easiest thing was to get back up, because that's just something that was taught to me from such a young age, right? Like, you fall down, you get back up. So I right away walked away, and that was the easy part. But the hard part came after that, once I kind of settled into the recovery process, and I had to allow my bones to heal, and then getting moving again past that was the challenging part. You're really stiff. Like, your body goes into protection mode when you have that kind of traumatic of an injury. So I did not want to, my body didn't want to allow me to move for a while. So that was pretty challenging to break through. I couldn't do this, now I can do this. And that's really impressive after you can't do that. Right. But I think the thing that got me started, because I really didn't have any belief in myself at that point. Right. Was talking to actually a different coach, and he believed in me in that moment. We were out on a walk, and I needed a World Cup medal that next season to maintain my team status. Right. And I was so fragile, and I felt so far away from medaling kind of shape. And I said, "Do you think I can do it?" And he like stopped and thought about it. He didn't just give me a knee-jerk reaction and said, "Yes, I think you can." He really thought about it. And so when he told me yes, I believed that he believed himself, and that started it.
Right. Mm-hmm. It is always interesting when you're looking for that belief in that person who takes a pause, takes a breath, and actually process what you're asking, and you can tell they're going through all the different scenarios before they give you an answer. It's that thing that athletes need to feel, that get that belief back and that trust back. That okay, all right, I'm ready to put the work in to get myself back to this sport.
Right, and I think if he had just said, "Of course, you can do it," I wouldn't have believed him. Exactly. I'm like, you're just being blindly positive. This is not real, right? But I could see that he actually believed it. So I just had to trust in him and not in myself at that moment.
Absolutely. Which I think is those combination of athletes. We, at some point we have to take it out of our hands, give it to someone else, and then slowly kind of move it back into our hands. And so, which ultimately paid off for you, so when I think about your comeback, how did you get back into a sport that almost took everything from you?
Gosh, how did I? At first, it was me just saying, okay, I'm going to do one thing a day to be better, because that felt doable. So it started with, all right, what am I doing today to be a little bit better? And some days that was just making it to the running track and doing kind of like that, my run. And that was it. And then some days it was, all right, the full program. All right, let's do this and kind of dig into it. So that was, at first, it was one thing a day. And then I relied on my team. I think that luge is an individual sport, right? I compete individually, but we definitely train as a team, especially the US team. We're pretty special about that. And I knew that they were returning to ice in October. They were going to Norway to get back on ice. And I just kind of was like, you know what, if I'm not with them getting back on ice this time, then I don't know if I'm going to do it. So I just went with my team. And when you're surrounded by people that are doing it, it makes it a little bit easier. And then I just had to take that leap and do it. But it definitely was not easy. I physically threw up every run when I was getting back into it because my body wasn't trained correctly. All of the stress on my neuromuscular system was a lot that I was not prepared for because I hadn't had a typical year of training. So my body was not ready, but I just took the leap.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to, I think becoming one of your favorite words here is composure. How did you rebuild composure, when you had real fear?
I don't know. I think that fear itself is very real. Mm-hmm. It's a very real feeling. It's also something that you can kind of like breathe through. And if you breathe through it, then it gets you to a place where you can make a decision instead of running or avoiding or whatever. So I would use my breath to kind of breathe down through the fear. And then I knew that it was a choice. And then I had to think, what kind of person do I want to be? What choice do I want to make in this moment?
Right. What I've learned is fear is really just energy trying to escape. And so that's why the breath is really important, to allow it to escape so your brain can then come back into focus to make the right decision. So that's the psychology brain in me now that some of the field that I'm working in, learning more about how do I manage my fear? Because again, we'll get to it, but the transition, the fear of transitioning from something you've done your whole life, and how do you meet those moments? And a lot of breath work has been integrated into my toolbox to make sure I can manage that. So
that's good. Then that makes me feel more prepared for my own transition because I've been prepped in that category.
As I told you, those tools that we develop in sports, the things that we are building, that foundation, it is transferable without a doubt. So we'll get into that. But what I want to do is I want you to take me through that first moment that you went when you were able to go full speed again. What was happening for you internally?
Internally, let's see. It's a lot of doubt the first time, right? Before you pull off, because in luge there's no brakes. So once you commit, it's like a roller coaster in that sense, where like once the ride starts, you're in it until the end. So, but the doubt wasn't about my like mental capabilities. It was, is my body going to withstand this? Is my neck strong enough to hold my head up? Mm-hmm. And I think I realized it's like, well, there's only one way to find out. So there we go.
Got to do it. Got to
do it now or never. Or now or until the next time you say no and you try again. But that hurdle is never going to get smaller.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you make this amazing comeback. You come back, you win the champion bronze 2019. Then you go on and win it again in 2025. Because I could imagine, because we're talking about those hundreds of seconds, what changed for you as a competitor to know that you can compete at the level that you wanted to get in that medal circle?
I think that when you go through something so challenging as kind of like a large injury, you learn lessons about yourself that you don't really learn any other way. For me, as I'm building back into sport, I have so much more body awareness than I did prior to my injuries. And that has become kind of my superpower within this sport, I think. Like my feeling of my body in the sled is so much more developed because I had to do hours of physical therapy to get there. I had to be more aware of all those tiny little muscles that are working in our spines and everything. So I think that's what led me back to being better.
Yeah, things that we don't even think about as kids, they just train, the multifidus, the rectus spinae, and all those things that are just naturally developed. And then once you injure the back, then you have to learn and mentally do it because it's not something you just go lift a weight to do.
No. And I had a lot of silent tears in sports medicine, right? Like as you're working through things, you're just like, it's just tears. And you're like, there's nothing you can do about it because it is a painful process. But,
Yes.
but it makes your life so much better on the other side of that.